A man walks into a room. He is outnumbered. He is outgunned. Every single person in that room wants him dead. And yet, he doesn't panic. He doesn't hesitate. He doesn't even blink. He moves like water. He thinks like a machine. He executes like a god. And within minutes, the room is empty, and he is still standing. Now here is the question nobody asks after watching that scene. Why doesn't he lose? Not just in that room, not just in that fight, but in every single fight, every single movie, every single impossible situation. Is it because he's fictional? Because it's Hollywood? No. Because the answer Robert Greene discovered, after years of studying history's greatest masters, is something far more disturbing, far more real, and far more available to you than you currently believe. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you will understand something about mastery, about skill, about human potential, that most people will go their entire lives never knowing. Welcome to 100 Day Challenge. Today is day 14. Today we are breaking down one of the most powerful psychological books ever written, Mastery by Robert Greene, through the lens of John Wick. Thousands of people have read this book, but almost nobody has analyzed it through the mindset, discipline, psychology, and actions of John Wick. Today, we are changing that. Because here is what I realized when I re-watched the John Wick trilogy with Mastery sitting on my desk. John Wick is not a fantasy. John Wick is a blueprint. Every chapter Robert Greene wrote, John Wick lived it. Every lesson Greene teaches about the path to mastery, you can see it playing out in every single scene of those films. And if you understand what Robert Greene is actually saying, and if you map it to John Wick's journey, you will walk away from this video with a framework for your own life that is so clear, so actionable, so uncomfortably true, that you will never look at your own skills the same way again. Let's go. You were built for one thing. Most people never find it. Let me ask you something. Before John Wick became the most feared assassin on Earth, before the gold coins, before the Continental, before the Baba Yaga whisper spread across every underworld in existence, what was he? Think about it. He was a boy who had nothing. No family, no money, no name worth keeping. He was recruited off the streets, raw, wild, unformed. And then something happened. Something that Robert Greene spends the entire first chapter of Mastery trying to explain. He found his life's task. Not a career, not a job, not a skill set, a calling. Greene says this, and I want you to hear every single word. The first move toward mastery is always inward. You must look inside yourself and find the one thing that you were uniquely designed to pursue. John Wick didn't choose violence because he liked it. He chose it because it chose him. Think about the scene in John Wick 2, where Viggo Tarasov describes him to his son. He says, and this is the line people quote without understanding what it actually means, I once saw him kill 3 men in a bar with a pencil. A pencil. That's not just a flex. That's a man who is operating inside his life's task. When you are inside your life's task, when you are doing the one thing you were wired to do, you stop needing to think about it. You stop needing motivation. You stop needing willpower. You simply execute. Now, here's where most people go wrong. Greene is not saying your life's task must be dramatic. It doesn't have to be combat, or art, or music. It could be building systems. It could be communicating ideas. It could be understanding how markets work. But it has to be yours. Not your parents' vision of you. Not your society's expectation of you. Not your Instagram feed's version of success. Yours. And the way you find it? Greene says, look for the obsession you had before the world told you what to be obsessed about. When John Wick was still a boy on those streets, before any formal training, he was already studying angles, already watching how people moved, already processing information his peers couldn't even perceive. That was the signal. That was the life's task, whispering. Most people hear that whisper and ignore it. They choose safety. They choose approval. They choose the career their family clapped for. And then they spend 30 years wondering why they feel hollow. John Wick did the opposite. He walked into the dark room. He said yes to the thing that terrified everyone else. And he became irreplaceable. But here's the part that changes everything. Finding your life's task is only the beginning. Because Greene says there's a specific path, a specific sequence you must follow after you find it. And most people skip step 1. They skip what Greene calls the apprenticeship phase. Every master was once a student who submitted everything. Here is a scene nobody talks about enough. John Wick, before he became the Baba Yaga, before he became the legend, had to earn his freedom from the Tarasov crime family. And the price Vigo set was not money. It was an impossible task. Kill every single target on this list in one night. And John Wick didn't argue, didn't negotiate, didn't protest. He looked at the list, he nodded, and he went to work. That is the apprenticeship phase in pure cinematic form. Robert Greene describes the apprenticeship phase as the most critical and the most psychologically difficult period in any master's development. It is the period when you know you have something, when you can feel the pull of your life's task, when you are burning with the desire to operate at the highest level, but you are not there yet. And the only way to get there is through something Greene calls deep observation. Not watching, not casually learning. Deep observation. The kind where you absorb not just the surface skill, but the invisible logic underneath it. Think about what John Wick absorbed during his years inside the Tarasov organization. Not just how to shoot, not just how to fight. He absorbed how power moves through rooms, how conversations carry threats beneath the words, how to read a person's intention before they've finished deciding what it is, how to be completely invisible until the exact moment you need to be completely visible. This is what Greene means by the apprenticeship phase. You are not there to perform. You are not there to impress. You are not there to prove how much you already know. You are there to receive. And Greene gives the clearest breakdown of how this works. He calls it the 3 steps of the ideal apprenticeship. Step 1. Deep observation, the passive mode. You arrive in a new environment. You shut your mouth. You open your eyes. You study every dynamic, every unspoken rule, every power structure that isn't written anywhere but governs everything. John Wick didn't walk into the underworld talking. He watched. He learned what the Continental meant, what the rules were, what the gold coins represented, what the high table actually was, not just in structure, but in psychology. Step 2. Skills acquisition, the practice mode. Once you understand the terrain, you begin drilling the skills. Not casually, not conveniently. Greene is very specific here. He says, and this is uncomfortable, the greatest mistake of the apprentice is to seek to avoid the tedious and painful parts of the skill acquisition. But it is precisely in these moments, in the painful repetitions, in the grinding hours of deliberate practice, that the skill becomes truly yours. John Wick didn't train until he was good. He trained until he couldn't get it wrong. There is a difference. Most people don't understand that difference. They practice until they can do it once. A master practices until they cannot do it incorrectly, even under maximum pressure. Step 3. Experimentation, the active mode. Now you take what you've absorbed, what you've drilled, and you begin to shape it. You begin to push the edges. You begin to find out which parts of the standard method don't fit you, and you adapt them. Watch how John Wick fights. He doesn't fight like anyone else in the Continental. He doesn't fight like a trained soldier. He doesn't fight like a classical assassin. He fights like John Wick. A combination of judo throws, jiu-jitsu ground control, point shooting, and improvised environmental combat that nobody else in the underworld can replicate. That specificity, that unique synthesis, is what happens at the end of a real apprenticeship phase. You don't just learn the skill, you become a version of the skill that only you can be. But here's where it gets dangerous. Greene says the apprenticeship phase has one enemy. One thing that destroys it more than failure, more than difficulty, more than external pressure. Impatience. The burning need to skip ahead. The delusion that you should already be at the level you're working toward. John Wick never showed impatience in his training years. But the moment he completed the impossible task, the moment he earned his freedom, what did he do? He walked away from the underworld completely. He chose peace over power. And for years, nobody heard from him. And then, the world took something from him. And that's when mastery met its greatest test. You cannot see what you cannot see until someone shows you. There is a man in John Wick's story who most people underestimate. Winston, the manager of the Continental, played with quiet, devastating intelligence by Ian McShane. Winston doesn't fight. Winston doesn't train. Winston doesn't carry a weapon in a single scene. And yet, Winston is arguably the most powerful person in the entire John Wick universe. Why? Because Winston understands something that Robert Greene spends an entire chapter explaining. Mentors don't teach skills. Mentors compress time. Greene says that without a mentor, your development follows a predictable, slow, painful arc. You make mistakes that have already been made 1,000 times. You waste years navigating blind alleys that a mentor could point you away from in 30 seconds. With a mentor, a real mentor, your development accelerates at a rate that looks, from the outside, like supernatural talent. It isn't supernatural. It's strategy. Think about what Winston does for John Wick across the trilogy. He doesn't teach him to shoot. He doesn't teach him to fight. John Wick already knows all of that. What Winston gives him is something more valuable. He gives him context. He shows John Wick the rules of the world he operates in, the invisible architecture of the high table, the boundaries that even the most powerful players cannot cross, the moments when even the most skilled fighter cannot win with skill alone, because the war isn't physical. That is the mentor's gift. Not technique, perspective. Greene says, and this is the line that stopped me cold when I first read it, the mentor-student relationship is the most efficient means of acquiring knowledge and skill in any field. The greatest masters in history almost always had a formative relationship with a mentor figure. Leonardo da Vinci had Verrocchio. Mozart had his father, Leopold. Michael Jordan had Phil Jackson. And John Wick had Winston. But here's where Greene takes this somewhere unexpected. He says the mentor dynamic has a natural lifespan. And if you don't understand this, if you cling to the mentor past the point of usefulness, you stop growing. There comes a moment when the student must separate, when the student must become their own authority. Watch what happens between Winston and John Wick in John Wick 3, Parabellum. Winston, under pressure from the high table, shoots John Wick off the roof of the Continental. For most viewers, this is betrayal. But watch it again through the lens of mastery. Winston knew John Wick didn't need his protection. The final level of his power was to be completely alone. No safety net, no Continental, no rules protecting him. Just him and his mastery. Because that is the only crucible that produces the final form of a master. Radical independence, complete autonomy. The moment when you stop operating from what someone taught you and start operating from what you have become. But here's what nobody talks about. Greene says there's a phase between the apprenticeship and true mastery that is the most dangerous of all. A phase where most talented people lose everything. He calls it the creative active phase. And the trap inside it? Almost everyone falls for it. The most dangerous moment in any master's journey is when they start believing the rules don't apply. John Wick 2. John Wick has been pulled back in. He owes a marker, a blood oath, to Santino D'Antonio. He fulfills the oath. He kills the target. He does exactly what was required. And then Santino betrays him, puts a global bounty on his head, sets the entire continental network against him. John Wick's response? He makes a move that Winston calls insane. He kills Santino inside the Continental, on sacred, neutral ground. The High Table's most sacred rule broken. The entire underworld turns on him, and for the first 20 minutes of that film, it looks like John Wick has made a catastrophic mistake. But here's what Robert Greene would tell you. John Wick wasn't being reckless. John Wick was entering, for the first time, the creative active phase of mastery. Greene describes the creative active phase as the stage where you have absorbed enough skill, enough knowledge, enough pattern recognition that you begin to see paths others cannot see, possibilities others cannot perceive, solutions others cannot formulate. And this is where it gets psychologically dangerous. Because in the creative active phase, you are powerful enough to break old rules. But you are also arrogant enough, if you are not careful, to believe that your power exempts you from the consequences. John Wick kills Santino and becomes excommunicado, stripped of every protection the Continental System offered. No safe passage, no services, no sanctuary. The creative active phase, unmanaged, can destroy you. But here's what separates the masters from the talented failures. The masters don't stop. Greene says, and this applies directly to John Wick's journey, the creative active phase requires not just skill, but a new kind of intelligence. The ability to think dimensionally, to absorb what happened, adapt, and continue moving forward with more specificity, more creativity, more precision. John Wick, post-excommunicado, doesn't fight the same way. Watch the catacombs sequence in John Wick 3. Watch the horse sequence. Watch the motorcycle fight. He is no longer fighting defensively. He is no longer trying to survive. He is creating. Every environment becomes a weapon. Every resource becomes leverage. Every moment of pressure becomes an opportunity to develop a new pattern, a new combination that his enemies cannot anticipate. This is what Greene means when he says the creative active phase, navigated correctly, produces something that looks like genius, but is actually something more reliable. Dimensional intelligence. The ability to see a situation at multiple levels simultaneously. technical, strategic, psychological, environmental. Most people operate on one level. Masters operate on all of them at once. And Greene says this capacity, this dimensional intelligence, is not a gift. It is developed deliberately, systematically, through what he calls the return to primitiveness, the willingness to go back. When you begin any skill, your brain processes it slowly, consciously, effortfully. Every micro decision is a separate conscious calculation. Every movement requires deliberate thought. This is why beginners look stiff, look slow, look effortful, because they are. But here's what happens when you accumulate years of deep practice, real-world application, and deliberate reflection. Your brain begins to encode the skill at a neurological level. It begins to bypass the conscious processing layer entirely. It builds what Greene calls, borrowing from neuroscience, a high-speed neural pathway that connects perception directly to action. No thought in between. Perception, action, result. That is what you are watching when John Wick walks into a room. He doesn't see the man by the bar and then think, okay, 3 steps to close distance, angle from the left, disarm by bending the wrist backward, transition to the pencil. He doesn't think any of that. He sees the room, and his body responds with the solution before his conscious mind has finished registering the problem. This is mastery. This is what Greene calls the final form, the point at which you and the skill become one thing. The separation between you and your capability disappears entirely. And here is the most devastating insight Greene offers about this stage. He says, at the level of mastery, there is an intuitive feel for the field that has been built through thousands of hours of practice and experience. It cannot be faked, borrowed, or transferred. It must be built. And once built, it produces a quality of performance that the uninitiated will always experience as something supernatural, because it operates at a speed and accuracy that exceeds conscious thought. This is why people call John Wick a myth, a ghost, the Baba Yaga. Not because he is superhuman, because he is post-human, in the sense that his performance has moved beyond the stage where human effort and will are the dominant variables. He is running on something else now. And Greene says this is not unique to John Wick, not unique to elite soldiers, not unique to athletes or musicians. It is available to anyone who follows the path long enough. Michelangelo had it. Mozart had it. Einstein had it. The surgeon who has done 10,000 procedures has it. The chess player who has studied 200,000 positions has it. The entrepreneur who has built and rebuilt again has it. And you, reading this right now, if you commit to the full path Greene describes, you can have it too. But Greene ends the book with a warning that I think is the single most important sentence in all 340 pages. He says, masters are not born, they are made. And the making requires one thing above all else. Not talent, not luck, not opportunity, but the willingness to submit to the process, even when it is ugly, even when it is slow, even when the world doesn't yet recognize what you are becoming. John Wick didn't ask the world to recognize him. He didn't need applause. He didn't need validation. He didn't need the world to understand why he was doing what he was doing. He just kept going, even when he was excommunicado, even when there was a $14 million bounty on his head, even when every gun in the world was pointed at him. He kept going. Because masters don't stop when it gets hard. They stop when the work is done. The most dangerous weapon in the underworld is not a gun. It's understanding people. Here's something the John Wick films show you that most action movies completely miss. John Wick doesn't just outfight everyone, he outthinks them. Watch how he navigates the Continental's social ecosystem. Watch how he speaks to Winston, never with aggression, always with precision. Watch how he handles the Bowery King, giving him just enough respect to extract maximum cooperation. Watch how he reads Sharon, the concierge, with a kind of fluent social comprehension that makes every interaction efficient. Robert Greene devotes an entire section of mastery to what he calls social intelligence, and his argument is subtle and uncomfortable. He says that most highly skilled people who are genuinely gifted in their craft, derail their own mastery not because they fail technically, they derail it because they fail socially. They alienate the people who could help them. They misread political dynamics. They mistake bluntness for honesty. They confuse independence with hostility. And their mastery, however brilliant, stays contained, never reaches its potential. Greene says the great masters in history understood that skill alone is never enough. You must also understand the theater of human interaction, the unspoken dynamics, the power flows, the ego structures that govern every social environment. Developing it is
John Wick
is
a masterclass
in this. He never burns bridges unless he has already calculated the cost. He never disrespects the rules of the Continental without knowing exactly what that disrespect will cost and choosing to pay it. He maintains the respect of people who despise him. People who have bounties on his head still recognize his legitimacy. That is social intelligence at the master level. And Greene's prescription for developing it is elegant in its simplicity. He says, stop projecting your own psychology onto other people. The single biggest social error that prevents mastery from reaching its full potential is the assumption that other people think like you. Want what you want. Fear what you fear. Value what you value. They don't. Every person you encounter is operating from a completely different internal map. And the master, the socially intelligent master, learns to read those maps. To see people as they actually are, not as you wish them to be or assume them to be. John Wick never makes that mistake. He sees exactly who is in front of him. He calibrates accordingly. And that, combined with his physical mastery, is what makes him truly unstoppable. But there's one more thing Greene says, the most counterintuitive of all. The master who has everything returns to nothing, and that is when they find everything. John Wick 4. John Wick has defeated the Marquis, fulfilled the duel, won his freedom. He is standing on those steps. The camera holds on him, and then he collapses. He gives everything, and I mean everything, to earn the right to stop, to rest, to finally be at peace. And Greene ends mastery with an idea that I think most readers rush past. He talks about what happens to a master at the absolute pinnacle. He says the greatest masters reach a point where they return to something simple, something almost childlike, a kind of radical openness, a return to beginner's mind that allows them to keep growing even after they have technically surpassed everyone around them. The master doesn't stop questioning. The master doesn't stop experimenting. The master doesn't sit down with the trophy and say, "This is enough. I understand it all." The master says, "What else is here that I haven't seen yet?" John Wick, in every film, returns to zero. He starts again. He gets beaten. He gets broken. He adapts. he grows. He finds new reserves of capacity that even he didn't know were there. That cycle, break, adapt, grow, is not a weakness. It is the engine of mastery itself. And Greene's final message, the sentence I want you to carry with you out of this video, is this: you are more capable than you currently believe, not because of talent, but because of the path. The path is real. The path is available. And the only thing standing between you and mastery is the decision to begin and the discipline to never stop. John Wick began. John Wick never stopped. And look at what he became. Now the question is not what John Wick became. The question is, what will you become? Let's bring it all together. Mastery by Robert Greene, mapped through John Wick. 1. Find your life's task, the thing that chose you before the world tried to choose for you. The thing you cannot stop returning to, no matter how many times life interrupts you. 2. Submit to the apprenticeship phase completely. Observe deeply. Practice until you cannot get it wrong. Experiment until the skill becomes uniquely yours. 3. Find a mentor who compresses time and know when to separate, because the final form of mastery requires you to stand alone. 4. Navigate the creative active phase with humility. Your growing power will tempt you toward arrogance. The masters who survive this phase are the ones who stay hungry. 5. Pursue the neural superhighway, the state where perception becomes action without conscious thought. That is the mastery phase. That is where John Wick lives. 6. Develop social intelligence, because skill without social awareness is a weapon with no aim. 7. Return to zero. Keep asking the beginner's questions. Keep finding new edges. Never let your mastery become a ceiling. That is the path. That is the blueprint. John Wick didn't wake up one morning as the Baba Yaga. He became it. One room at a time. One target at a time. 1 year of grinding invisible work at a time. You are not behind. You are not too late. You are simply at whatever point you are on the path, and the path is real. Get on it, stay on it, and become something the world cannot explain. John Wick didn't wake up one morning as the Baba Yaga. He became it. 1 room at a time, 1 target at a time, 1 year of grinding invisible work at a time. You are not behind. You are not too late. You are simply at whatever point you are on the path, and the path is real. Get on it, stay on it, and become something the world cannot explain.